I want everyone in this community to know that we meticulously, thoroughly reviewed all of the evidence in this case, made sure it was credible evidence in order to make the decision that we made today. We took a lot of painstaking effort to make certain that there was no personal bias in the review.
Welcome in to the Mark Cox Show today. That was the prosecutor in Mecklenburg County, which is the county that surrounds Charlotte, North Carolina. Today, they announced just a few minutes ago that the police officer who fatally shot Keith Scott acted lawfully and will not be charged. So, if you'll remember, it hasn't been that long, back in the summer when this first happened, the protests that took over parts of Charlotte. Sorry.
Yeah, we have been massive and angry crowds taking over the streets of Charlotte, North Carolina overnight, hours after police shoot and kill a man that they say aimed a gun at them. Well, rioters shutting down traffic on Interstate 85, looting cars and trucks and setting things on fire. Right now, police are standing guard outside of a Walmart, you can see there, surrounded by shattered glass after looters take over the store. And this incredible video.
So, again, a reminder of some of the overreaction, in many cases based on bad information about what really happened in this shooting. And in this case, the prosecutor said, we've reviewed everything. Mr. Scott had a gun. He had marijuana. The gun was loaded. There was a 380 caliber round in the chamber at the scene, and the police were justified with what they did. So this is the news that more than likely will lead to a repeat of the news reports you just listened to a moment ago from back in the summer when protesters looted and burned parts of Charlotte, North Carolina. We're joined right now by Jeff Roorda, who's been kind enough to give us a little bit of time today. And obviously, Jeff's been with the St. Louis Police Officers Association for many years. Jeff, how are you?
Good, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Have you read up on what this prosecutor announced today?
Yeah, I have. I've been reading extensively about it today. Booked to do Anderson Cooper's show tonight. I'm nervous for the cops and the law-abiding citizens down there because it seems like everyone's expecting trouble. Well, I mean, it seems to me like there will pretty obviously be trouble. This prosecutor appealed for calm today. He begged people to download his report on this investigation and read it. Now, I doubt that any of them will, and I'm waiting for the news conference to pop up where they still claim that somehow the police did something wrong or that the Justice Department should be called into this. Whatever the case may be, I'm a little surprised that hasn't happened already. Yeah, and just to sort of run through what the lengths of this prosecutor went to, 15 different prosecutors looked at this case. They unanimously agreed that there was no evidence of wrongdoing on the part of the police officer. They dug up evidence like video from a convenience store that Mr. Scott had been in shortly before the shooting, where you can see a bulge around his ankle, where they found an ankle holster after he was shot, where it appears that he had the 380 that he was armed with concealed. This is a fellow with a long criminal history that shouldn't have been in possession of a gun, a guy who flourished a gun to police and wouldn't drop it. There's video evidence of that. There's the audio that his own wife took where the police are pleading with the guy to drop the gun. And then, there's also the family's contention that, that he's, holding a book. There's no book in the car. The family's contention that this is due to his traumatic brain injury and that he wasn't on his meds. The autopsy shows that he was on a whole cocktail of anti-seizure medicine and other medicine used to treat his brain injury.
Yeah, and I wondered because The DA, and I'm going to play another bite here, Liz, if you don't mind, talked about the same problems that we saw here in St. Louis during Ferguson, and I know you've detailed this to a great deal in your book, but I'm sure that Bob McCullough had to deal with this same problem. Let's go to audio soundbite number 15, Liz, where he's talking about the problem that news media coverage caused with the reaction to this case.
In describing the legal analysis and the basis for the decision, in this case, my office and I unfortunately find ourselves in a position of correcting misinformation that has been shared both on social media and in the news media. People made claims on camera but later admitted to law enforcement that they didn't actually see the incident. People and the public might then ask themselves, why didn't you release more information to refute these untrue statements? I have always asserted that my office would strive towards transparency, but I need people to understand that among my highest priorities is also protecting the integrity of every investigation.
So, again, this is the attorney Murray there in Mecklenburg County, the prosecuting attorney. This is nothing new. I mean, we saw it in Ferguson. The whole hands up, don't shoot lie started by somebody saying something to the news media that he later, under investigation, admitted wasn't true.
Right. Yeah. These are very parallel cases. You've got the same sort of allegations that the suspect was innocent of any wrongdoing. You've got this false narrative filling the void. Although I got to tell you, I think the Charlotte Police Department did a terrific job of getting details out very quickly. They had that video out within 24 hours of the body cam. They had the Weiss video out within 48 hours. They were quick to answer questions. This has been a very speedy process from the circuit attorney, the district attorney down there, compared to what we had here in St. Louis, which is the one big difference. Bob took this in front of a grand jury and had the grand jury make the decision. Protesters and rioters didn't like that. They said that was the wrong way to do it. So this prosecutor down in Charlotte instead kept it in his office and said, the buck stops here, I'll make the decision myself. And he and his office reviewed the case and made a decision on their own whether charges should be issued. Again, that doesn't seem like it's going to appease the rioters and the protesters.
And we're talking to Jeff Roorda from the St. Louis Police Officers Association. What's the reaction to officers when a ruling like this is made? I mean, obviously, all I've ever called for in the wake of these things is, give the investigators a chance to look at this. Don't automatically draw the wrong conclusions. And yet, police officers are now presumed to be in the wrong immediately. Yeah, and I think that emotion throughout law enforcement when a day like this comes is, here we go again. We're always hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. And we saw how quickly things spun out of control down in Charlotte. It was very similar to Ferguson, probably a little bit more widespread because it's a bigger town, but. I'm sure the officers down there are on pins and needles, and their comrades across the country are praying for their safety. Well, we get into the bigger discussion here. The police superintendent up in Chicago, where it's like the Wild West in parts of that town, is holding a news conference yesterday and basically announces that they're going to take a new look at the use of force in Chicago. Which is basically going to be looking to de-escalate things in advance. They've got 650 murders up there. I think their rate of solving things is down around 20%. This is the direction, and hopefully this changes under a Trump administration. This is the direction that this Department of Justice has been pushing police departments all over the country. Right, and we know who should be de-escalating. It's the murderers who have taken over the streets in Chicago. It's people like Keith Lamont Scott who turned deadly force against a police officer. Those are the people that have to de-escalate. They're the ones escalating. When the cops are told to de-escalate and to back off, it just exacerbates a problem, and
And we know that when things get bad, that blacks are disproportionately the victims of these violent crimes. So, that's why I'm so critical of the Black Lives Matter movement and the Obama administration, because their approach is costing black people's lives in great numbers.
Yeah, certainly greater numbers than those killed at the hands of police. I mean, if you look at the numbers, which is just, sad.
Right.
Well, Jeff Roorda, listen, I'd encourage people to take a look at your book again, Ferganistan, The War on Police. I know people can find it on Amazon and places like that. I just want to mention it again because just to draw people's attention back to the fact that you've written extensively on the problems that we had in Ferguson. And, this, I think we're going to see more rioting, unfortunately, in Charlotte tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, the book doesn't stop being topical.
No, very true. But Jeff Roorda, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, thank you.
See you.
Yeah. Jeff Roorda there. Again, the book is Ferganistan, The War on Police, and very timely. If you're looking for a good read through the holidays, that would be a good one. That's not the only reason I had Jeff on, but I did want to mention that he knows of what he speaks. He's represented police officers, and he's looked extensively at what happened up in Ferguson. To get back to our political comment there about the